Today, whoops, that's not the right one. Today we have, oh yeah, there it is. Today we have Mike Matthews with us. Again, if you recall, last month he talked about Apple Pay and the wallet and things like that. This week he's going to be talking about the Finder. You know, we all think we know the Finder, but really the Finder is the heart of the Mac, and it can do so much. So Mike is going to spend the next hour just showing us what all the little tips and tricks and everything that we can use the Finder for. And I'm going to guess that you will walk away from this with probably some productivity tips and be able to work your Mac just a little bit better, which is what our end goal is. So, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you, and it's all yours.
Okay, thanks very much, Dan. Let me just share my screen here and bring up a few slides. And you should all be seeing a slide that says, "What the heck is the Finder?"
Yes.
Yep, we're good.
Well, good. Glad you're here. I'm happy to be here as well. My name is Mike, and I've been teaching at adult schools and doing sessions like this with user groups for quite a while. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, this is where you can find me. I do consulting for consumers just like you, a little bit of remote stuff, but mostly in-person stuff. But if you need to find me, this is where I am. So what actually is the Finder? For those of you who are old enough to remember, computers used to look like this. If you can't make this out on your screen, you're ahead of the game. This is an example of the contents of a directory on a computer that doesn't use what's called a graphical user interface. So the Finder was put on the Mac right at the very beginning, and it's gone through several iterations over time. When the Mac first came out, it kind of looked like this, a nice small grayscale screen when we were all using floppy disks. It's also morphed into the Mac OS X version. This is the original version of Mac OS X with striped windows and a lot of transparency and toolbars and the like. And eventually we've gotten to this point today where here's a look at like an applications folder in a current view of the Finder. So at its core, the Finder is the app you use to manage files on your Mac, to launch apps. You'll also use the Finder now if you're using a recent version of Mac OS to connect devices to your computer, say an iPhone or an iPad. And you can also use the Finder to connect to various services, whether these are file servers on a network or perhaps Dropbox files that you have stored online. There are ways to access those files through the Finder, as well as through the apps that those third-party services may have for you. So the Finder is meant to run all the time. It's not, I don't believe it's really even in the applications folder, but you'll find it at the far left end of the dock, if you have your dock at the bottom of the screen, or you'll find it at the top of the dock if you have the dock on the side of your screen. Clicking the Finder's icon in the dock typically switches you to the Finder. If there are no windows open, it'll open a window for you. But typically, because it runs all the time, if it misbehaves, you want to do what's called a force quit to make it relaunch itself. There are hacks that you can do that can give you a quit menu in the Finder, but the Finder is meant to be running constantly, giving you access to the file system, doing things for you. Let it run, but if it misbehaves, you can always use the force quit command in the Apple menu to relaunch the Finder. So what I'd like to do before we delve into this very deeply is just run through what I call the anatomy of a Finder window. And this is an example here on the screen. It's actually a screenshot of an applications folder. So I just want to talk about some of the user interface elements that you might see in a Finder window and maybe get some of the terminology down before we go deeper. So the first thing on the Finder window, starting in the upper left-hand corner, are these window controls, the red, yellow, green buttons that form sort of a horizontal stoplight, if you will. The red button in the upper left-hand corner closes a window. The yellow button will minimize a window, basically send it down into the right side of the dock. You can recall that window just simply by clicking its icon on the dock. The window will come back out of the dock and onto your desktop for your use. And the green button on the right used to be used to resize a window kind of to its full size to fit as many icons in the window as possible. It actually does some different things now. Clicking that green button puts a window into full screen mode, where the window takes up the entire screen. The menu bar at the top of the screen disappears. The window controls at the top of the screen disappear, and the window just goes edge to edge on your screen. I have a lot of clients who click that button accidentally and wonder what happened. And what happened is the window went full screen. So to get out of that full screen mode, you need to move the pointer all the way to the top of the screen until the window controls drop down from the top. Then you can click the green button again to exit full screen mode for that window and go back into a typical windowed interface. This full screen mode is really kind of best for laptops, perhaps smaller screen devices that need to have as much screen space as possible to show you as many things as possible in the window. If you've got a more traditional iMac or a large external monitor, full screen mode might not be critical for you, but it's kind of a good tool to have when you're using a laptop or a smaller screen. There's a couple of other features that are built into the green button that allow you to go into what's called split view mode, and it allows you to work on two apps side by side. It's a little bit like split view on the iPad, if any of you are familiar with that. Again, this is probably something that's best for notebook-sized screens. You can simply hover the pointer over the green button, and you'll see a menu that will appear that can move the existing window either to the left side or the right side of the screen. And then a second open app can be clicked to bring that window into the other half of the split screen. Again, this is not something that a lot of Mac users use or probably even know about, but it is there in case you want to take advantage of it. You exit split view in the same way, just move the pointer up to the top of the screen and click the green button, and that will get you out of the split view mode. After the window controls, we have on the left side of the Finder window an area called the sidebar. This is a feature of most Mac apps these days. This is an easy way to kind of organize locations and even files that you might be interested in when you're using your Mac. There's 4 categories in this sidebar. They have this little light gray header on them, like favorites, iCloud, locations, and tags. And we'll talk more about this when we get into the details of the sidebar. Whatever you see in the sidebar in a Finder window extends to all Finder windows. So the sidebar is meant to be kind of a global setup for Finder windows that you use on your Mac. Next up, along the top of the window is an area called the toolbar. This also is standard for all of your Finder windows. It contains buttons to execute common commands that you might want to use, such as how to view your window contents, how to search through files and folders on your Mac. It saves you a trip to the menu bar frequently. And so anything that puts things front and center for users, particularly new users, that's a pretty helpful thing to have. Blended into the middle of the toolbar is the title bar. Those of you who are longtime Mac users might remember the stripes along the top of each window with the name of the window contained right in the middle. And that was the location where you would put the pointer to drag windows around on the screen. Back when Mac OS Big Sur was introduced, the title bar and the toolbar were kind of blended together. So in this example on the screen, we've got the back forward buttons on the left, which are part of the toolbar, followed by the name of the window you're looking at, blended into the rest of the toolbar. This was done, I think, to try to conserve a little bit of vertical space, particularly for smaller screens. Picks up a few more pixels. Does make it a little bit more difficult to find a convenient place to place the pointer to drag a window around, particularly if you've been used to the older style. But that's the location of the title bar, right in the middle of the toolbar. Beneath the toolbar, there's a thing called the tab bar. Just about every app in macOS can be set up to use tabs inside of windows rather than opening a different window for every, in this example, folder that you have in the Finder. So in the example you're seeing here, there's a tab called Applications, which is the active tab. It's a little bit brighter than the one to the right called Music, that is showing me the contents of that window. If I were to click on the Music tab to the right, the contents of the Music tab will become visible in the window. And this plus button over here on the right of the tab bar allows you to add additional tabs to the windows. So if you've used tab browsing at all on Safari, you'll be familiar with this concept. It's a way to minimize window clutter while still having a number of windows open at the same time. Many tabs in one window. Next up, down here near the bottom is something called the path bar. I think this is usually turned off by default, but you can enable it in the view menu in the Finder. This is showing you the path on your hard disk to the current location displayed in the window. So in this example, the applications folder is inside the internal storage called Macintosh HD. And as you open additional windows or click on additional icons, this path bar will change to reflect the location of the file or the folder that you're looking at. And I think the last piece of window Chrome is called the status bar. This will show you the number of items contained in a folder. It will show you how much free space you have available on your internal storage. And in some cases, as when looking at a window in what's called icon view, as we see here, there's a little slider down here in the little lower right-hand corner that you can move to change the size of the icons inside the Finder window when you're in icon view. So that's kind of a quick and dirty look at a typical Finder window. Window controls, toolbar, title bar, sidebar, path bar, and status bar. Lots of bars here in these windows. So having said that, I can take a break for questions if you have any, Sheeta.
Not yet.
Okay, so it's all crystal clear. That's good. So I'm going to go ahead and drop out of this screen and go back and share something else. So I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop with you. And over on the left-hand side of the screen, you're probably going to see a Zoom window, which you can ignore. I'm going to try to maybe move it over a little bit, get it a little bit out of the way. And I'm just going to open up a typical Finder window.
Mike, can you hide the Zoom control panel? It's at the top of your screen.
I don't know if I can.
Go to the right. Yeah, go there.
More.
More.
Let me turn on the spotlight first. Okay.
All right.
And hide the floating media controls.
Yes.
Okay. And now I have the small one. So let's just move this out of the way. Okay. And there's our spotlight. Okay. So here's a simple Finder window. And we can run through the details that we just talked about a little bit earlier. The area over here called the sidebar, you can choose to show or hide the sidebar on a window by window basis. So the contents of the sidebar don't change from one window to the next, but you can choose to hide the sidebar if you like. Under the View menu in the Finder, there's a choice here to hide the sidebar. And so if I select this, the sidebar will be hidden on this particular window. To bring it back, just go back to the view menu and show the sidebar. There's also some settings under the Finder menu where you can customize what goes in the sidebar. So as an example, I am showing the following items under favorites, and I have a few items that I'm not showing under favorites. If I were to check the box here in front of the music folder, the music option, then a music would show up in the sidebar of every Finder window that I have. I can also choose what I want to see under the iCloud heading, what I want to see under locations, and what I want to see under tags. So you can customize the sidebar with this Finder settings window to kind of take effect on some of the more global options. You can also customize it further, as I'll display in just a few minutes. Now, in the sidebar over here, if I put the pointer on any one of these headings, favorites, iCloud, locations, tags, a little disclosure arrow shows up to the right of the name of that category. Clicking on this arrow allows you to hide the contents of that category. When that's the case, the disclosure arrow turns to the right, and then clicking that disclosure arrow will display the contents of that category and point the arrow downward. So it's a little bit like the arrow you see in front of folders when you're looking at them in the Finder and List view. Clicking this disclosure arrow will hide or show the contents of one of these categories. So if you like, you can do this. You can just close them all up and look at them only when you want to. This is another place where people accidentally click an arrow over here and all of a sudden things disappear and they wonder what happened. That's typically what happened. Just a stray click on one of these arrows will do that. If you like, within a category, you can drag these items around to reorganize them. So for example, I wanted to take AirDrop and just move it up a little bit. I can just drag it up. And you can also add additional items to the favorites area simply by dragging them into the sidebar. So for example, I've got a folder here called Another Simple Folder. If I just drag this over here into the favorites area, this little blue separator bar you're seeing is showing where this item's going to go if I let go of the pointer, like right now. Now I have this folder called Another Simple Folder right in the sidebar. And just like any other item in the sidebar, when I click any of these items, it displays the contents in the Finder window. So for example, if I click the Downloads button, I'm going to see what's in the Downloads folder. If I click the Desktop button, I'm going to see what's on the desktop. And if I click Another Simple Folder, I'm going to see the contents of that, which happens to be empty. Okay. If you want to take something out of the sidebar, just drag it right out. So if I want to take this folder called Another Simple Folder out, just drag it out and let it go and it disappears. These things down here are really aliases, just like the items in the dock on your Mac. They're just pointers to the original location within your file system. The section on iCloud gives you access to files you've stored in iCloud Drive. Optionally, you can also take a favorite or a folder or a file in iCloud Drive and drag it to the sidebar. So for example, this folder called Stat is actually contained within iCloud Drive. So rather than click iCloud Drive and root around through the folders to try to find this Stat folder, if this is a folder I'm in a lot, I'll just drag it out of the iCloud Drive window right to the sidebar, and I can get access to it with a single click. The locations area shows you devices and your Mac that your device can reach. So for example, if I click on Mike's iMac, this is going to show me the very, very top level of the hard drive inside my Mac. This would take me right to the hard drive. This would take me to a file server on the network, and this would show me the network that I'm connected to within my house. You might see other computers on here. You might see even printers sometimes advertise themselves under this network location. So you can use these locations options to access other devices on your network and also within your own device. If you have an iPhone or an iPad that you've been connecting to your Mac physically with a cable to move data back and forth between your Mac and your iPad or your iPhone, up until a couple of years ago, all of that was handled inside the iTunes app. When Apple redid the iTunes app and turned it into the Music app and split off things like podcasts and other things, the connection to your iPad or your iPhone is now done within the Finder. So if I were to connect my iPhone or iPad to my Mac with a USB cable, it would show up here under locations. And then clicking that iPhone or iPad would give me options to sync files, remove files, etc. Exactly like you were used to with using that feature with iTunes. And the last section down here is called tags. This was something that was introduced a few years ago, and it's used to identify files that are stored on your device and be able to find them very, very quickly. Within these Finder preferences, there's a section on tags. You can choose to add tags into the sidebar. If there are tags you don't want to show, you can just uncheck these boxes and they'll disappear. You can label these tags any way you like. Just select the file, or the tag name, press return, and give this another name if you like. I could call this football, for example. And you use these tags to label files and then be able to access those files no matter where they're stored on your computer with a single click. So for example, if I go back to this Finder window and I click on this orange tag that's labeled work, it will show me all of the files that are stored on my Mac that have this orange tag applied to them. Same thing with red, away. You'll notice that some of these items have more than one tag on them. For example, this folder called Hunt has a green tag and a red tag on it. It's very simple to add a tag to an item. All you have to do is take the item and drag it on top of the tag. And that will add a tag to an item. And this works with both individual documents and with folders. So this is mostly useful. Let's imagine you were planning some trip overseas and you had a whole bunch of files scattered all over your Mac, and you wanted to get a view of them all in one place. You could create a tag or use an existing tag, put that tag on all those items, and then when you select the tag in the sidebar, it will show you all those items, leaving them in place, right? So nothing on your device is really moving anywhere. You're just adding a tag to make it easy to locate those items that you're most interested in. Okay. Any questions about the sidebar?
We have a bunch of questions for you.
Okay.
All right. Jim Cutler, can you please unmute yourself and ask your 2 questions?
Okay, let's see. I have a couple of folders. One is invoices and the like, and the other is the root of my yearly tax folders. And I put both of those in the toolbar for access anytime, but they're much safer there from accidental moving or erasure because my fingers drag on the mouse if it was in the sidebar instead. And it also doesn't clutter up the dock.
Okay. You know, I know it used to be possible to put anything up in the toolbar. I'm not sure that's the case anymore. I'm trying to drag this folder up here and it's just not going.
That's
You actually can hold down the command key.
Uh-oh, look at this. Here we go. Ah, very nice. See, every day you learn a little something.
yeah.
Okay.
And then what was my other question?
Your other question was, do you suggest, that was the often items. And your other question was about what's special about the search button.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know if I do a command space, I get Siri, sometimes when I don't want her. And I get lots and lots of different results. If I'm looking for just files or maybe a word in a file, I use that search button. Is there anything special about it that I should know? Am I really taking advantage of it then, or?
I think so. The spotlight search up here at the in the menu bar, which you can evoke using command space. This will search everything on your device, and it might also go out and give you some links to the internet. The spotlight search field does a bit more than what the search button that's built into the toolbar will do.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk more about the toolbar in a few minutes, but like, for example, if I type the word, if I type LeBron James in here, I'm going to find some files that have his name in it, but I'm not getting any internet links. Right.
Which is very nice.
It's just searching the Mac for that.
And if you did the contain LeBron James, it would find only files that actually had or folders that actually had his name in them.
Yeah. So here, if I do LeBron James in the spotlight search, I'm getting web links. I'm getting the score from yesterday's game. I'm getting some bookmarks in history. I'm getting photos. I'm getting a bunch of stuff.
And so, okay, so I guess the best way that I could describe it then to somebody else would call it search for use of the Finder and not the world. Yeah,
the search button in the toolbar, right?
Okay.
You're searching the Finder. That's exactly.
I use that all the time.
Jim, thank you.
Yeah.
We got to go on. Quickly, you said that command spacebar brings up Siri. You can reset that in the preferences. Mary, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Sometimes when I use the Finder and I click on something in the name column, a blue folder comes up. And if I click on it, nothing happens. But if I go down to the path and click on the name in the path, then it opens. And that doesn't always happen. Sometimes I can click on something in the name column and it will open. And I don't understand why sometimes I have to go to the path and click. Does that make sense?
I don't know. I'd have to see your Mac to know, but anything in the sidebar over here, giving this a click.
No, not the sidebar, Mike. It's when I'm looking at the name column.
This column, like this column here?
Yes.
Okay. This is what's called column view, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But when
What's it called?
Column view.
Okay, yes. In the column view, if I click on something, sometimes it opens and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have to go down to the path to open whatever it is. And I don't understand why sometimes it opens and sometimes I have to go to the path.
Well, column view should spawn a new column every time you click a folder, right? So if I'm looking at this column of items, if I click a folder, I'm going to see another column. But if I click a file, I'm going to see a preview. There's nothing else to show beyond this. Does that help at all? Is it that you're clicking on individual files as opposed to folders in that last column?
Okay, I'll try that. I think that might be the problem that I'm having.
Yeah, so when you get to the end of a column, if you click a file, you're going to see a preview of the file. If you click a folder, you'll see the contents of that folder. And if there are more folders inside, it'll just keep spawning columns.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mary. We have one last question before we let you move on. Is it Eddie or Edie? G.
It's Edie.
Okay, Edie, what's your last name?
Gralla. Oh, sorry, that's not on there. Sorry.
No, but that's okay. Go ahead. Go on with your question.
I have two questions. One of them is with the labels you were talking about, the tagged files. Is there a way to have it show the tagged files only in the folder you're working with? Because you said it showed all the tagged files on the whole computer, which wouldn't be useful for me.
Yeah, I I think it's going to show you all of the items with that tag on it. So if you're in a folder, like this particular folder right here, has one item with a tag on it. And I think you might want to, for example, if you view this folder as a list, you'll see tags that will show up over here to the right of the name. You can also group these by tags if you want to. I don't have a lot of items in this.
Okay.
Do that, but you could group them so that all the blue items are together, all the red items are together, all the green items are together, and so forth. So that might be what you're looking for.
Okay, that would work. The other question I have is about Ventura. This time, when you go to the search in the title bar of a window, it used to be stretched out. So you had the bar there like that. And now you have to click it, open the bar, and then click again to type. So I just wondered if there's a way to make it go back to the way it used to be.
I don't believe there is. I know that if you make a window narrower or wider, you'll see more or more buttons. But it looks to me like the search button is just a search button these days. There's no field up there waiting for you to type something in. You've got to actually click twice to use it. That's what it feels like.
Okay.
This
is a case of if it isn't broke, don't fix it. But
perhaps, yeah.
Edie, I'm with you. All right, all yours, Mike.
Okay, so let's take a look at the toolbar. There is a default set of buttons that can appear in the toolbar. I think that's what we have here. There's a back forward button. You can use the Finder kind of like a little bit of a web browser. So if I, for example, open this folder, and now I click the back button, it's going to take me back to the previous view in this window. And now that I have, gone backwards, I can go forwards. Okay. So the back forward buttons will be available to you within a given window to navigate through the window without having to constantly go back and double click folders to try to reopen them again. So it operates a little bit like a web browser. There's also
Mike,
yep.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
If you hold down your mouse on those back and forth buttons, you can navigate almost forever. So like if I went to 5 different places, all those places would show up in that button.
Right. It's a little bit like holding down the back and forward buttons in Safari, or touching and holding a back and forward button in Safari on the iPhone or the iPad. If you click and hold one of these arrows, you'll see like a list of all of the folders you saw moving forward. And if I was back, I would see all the lists of places I've been going back. It's a nice hidden feature. The view button here allows you to view the contents of your window in up to 4 different ways. And again, if I make this Finder window a little bit wider, the view button will expand a little bit because it's got room to show you these 4 options. If all you see from the view button is one item like this, the icon that you're seeing is telling you which type of view you're looking at, which in this case is icon view. But just clicking the little double arrow button over here will pop up a menu and allow you to view a window in list view, in column view, and as a gallery. So let me explain a little bit what each of these things do. Icon view is kind of the original view from the Mac. You open a window, you get to see things in an icon view. You can drag these items around, pretty much do whatever you like within here. If you choose a list view, you'll see all of your items organized in a list. Each of these columns at the top, you can click on these to sort the window using that column. So for example, we're sorting by name right now, alphabetically. I can switch the order of the listing by clicking the arrow to the right of the name title. And now I'm viewing them in reverse alphabetical order. Click again to go back to alphabetical order. You can view by the date modified, again, reversing the order, the size of the item, and the kind of item, if you like. You can also drag these columns around, put the ones that you want exactly where you want them. You can also narrow these columns by putting the pointer on any of these dividers between the columns. And you'll notice in the date one, as I make this column narrower, the date format changes to show me more or less information. So that's list view. Column view actually came from the Next computers. We talked about this just a moment ago a little bit. When you're in column view, clicking a folder will show you the contents of that folder. So when I'm looking at a simple folder here, I've got these two content items. When I click another simple folder, it's going to spawn another column and show me what's inside that folder. Again, if I click on an item, a document, I'll see a preview of that document rather than another folder, as an example. The last view here is called gallery view. This is best really for, say, a folder full of photos. In gallery view, the items that are contained in the folder will show up as little thumbnails down here at the bottom of the window. And clicking any of these things will show you a preview of the icon. So in the case of a folder, looking at a folder preview is rather boring. But if you had a folder full of photographs and you wanted to see them in a larger size without having to individually open each file to see, you might want to look at the folder full of photographs in gallery view so you can kind of see them more easily without having to open each one individually. Now, within all of these views, there's also a group function over here where you can group the items by various characteristics. This is not going to be so cool with just two items here, but you can group items by the date they were added. So this adds a little header to the top of this window to show what items were brought in today. If there were documents that came in earlier, they would show up below here. I could group them by kind. So here's a look at this same folder grouped with folders and PDF documents separately. You could go with size. You can go with tags. So there's lots of different things you can do to group the items within the folder. And this works with different types of views as well. So this is a list view grouped by tags. You could do list view grouped by the date last opened. You can do column view grouped by date last opened. So rather than a straightforward alphabetical list of items, you could stay in column view and group these files in different ways, like size or tags. So you've got lots of options. These views and the grouping feature, that can vary from window to window. So you could have a window full of folders that you choose to have in gallery view grouped by date, and you could have another folder full of documents that you could choose to look at in column view grouped by the application that created it. You got a lot of flexibility with groups and views of windows. Next button here is called the share button. It's not active here because nothing has been selected, but if I were to select this PDF file, the share button allows me to share this document in much the same way as you would do on an iPad or an iPhone. I can send it via messages to any of these people here that I've corresponded with recently, or I can use mail or messages or AirDrop or add the document to notes. This is a quick and easy way to share a file somewhere without having to go through a lot of extra steps, say opening up an email message and then dragging the file in. You can just do it in one fell swoop using the share button. Edit tags is available here. You can assign tags to certain items. So rather than drag the icon from the window to the sidebar, which in this case would be difficult because the tags are hidden, I could just hit the edit tags button and add tags from here. And now this file's got more than one tag associated with it. If you want to delete something, you can simply select it in this window, hit the delete button, and that will move the item to the trash. The action button here groups in one place some common commands that you would use with the selected item. So this is a little bit like right-clicking on an item. So instead of right-clicking using a mouse or a trackpad, you can select an item and use the action button if that's easier for you. One of the great things about the Mac is there are multiple ways to do the same thing. And you can pick the one that you like the best, or you can use the one that makes the most sense for the circumstances that you're in. So you could, for example, select both items in this window, click Edit Tags, and apply a tag to both items with one click. Or you could select everything in this window and delete them, or make aliases for them, or use any one of these other commands that are available to you under the action button.
Ready
And
for the
lastly,
question? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
let's do the search button, then we can deal with it. The search button over here, we talked about this a little bit already. This is used to search for things on your Mac. And you can type pretty much anything in here, names of files or folders, even the contents of files or folders. And if I type, for example, Lake Tahoe in here, I will get anything that has the word Lake Tahoe in it. So as you can see, none of these items have the word Lake Tahoe in the title, but somewhere in these documents, the phrase Lake Tahoe is inside of it. And if you were to open up a file that after doing a search like this, it'll show you in the file where it found that text. So it's a pretty handy feature. One other thing about this, there's a save button down here underneath the search field. This is used to create what's called a smart folder. It's a saved search, really, and it can update itself automatically. So if, for example, I wanted to save this search as a smart folder, and I can give this search a name, Lake Tahoe. And I can save this in a folder called Save Searches, which is just fine. And I can also add it to the sidebar. When I save this folder in the sidebar over here, I've got a new item called Lake Tahoe with a little gear next to it that indicates this is a smart folder. And the saved search criteria are the words Lake Tahoe, either in the document or in the title of the document itself. And so if I decide to add another item that matches those criteria, that smart folder will automatically update. So as an example, here's my smart folder, my smart save search for Lake Tahoe. If I go into this folder and I'm just going to make a new folder. I'm going to call it Lake Tahoe trip. As soon as I do that, that folder gets added to the save search right up here. So this is a pretty handy thing. If you've got a project you're working on an ongoing basis and you want to try to find an easy way to see all of the items that you save in a search, create a smart folder and it will update itself automatically. And you can view the contents of that smart folder right here in the sidebar. Again, all of these items are staying in their original location. You're just seeing a view of any item that matches this save search, Lake Tahoe in this case. Okay.
All right, ready?
Yep.
And first of all, I want to say that I use those smart searches relentlessly. And I have one set up to show me if I have files over a certain size. So if I need to clean out my computer, I automatically see what are the largest files on my computer. So, okay, so with that, Jonathan Shapiro, you are up next with questions. Can you unmute yourself, please? Jonathan, are you there? Okay, John Levy, can you go with your question?
Yes, thank you. Going back, when you were talking about the Finder, how do you bring up Finder settings?
Just go to the Finder menu, top of the
Thank
screen.
you.
Pick
Thank you
settings.
very much.
Okay, Len Brophy.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, all right, Jonathan's here.
This is
Okay,
Jonathan.
go ahead.
Sorry, it takes me a long time to find stuff on my screen.
Okay.
There's an application called Pathfinder, which is an alternative to the Finder. And I don't know if now is the time when you want to compare them, but if you're familiar with it, would you mind saying what the differences, advantages, disadvantages are?
Well, I can't because I'm not familiar with it. There's lots of apps you can get on your Mac that do things like launch apps and things. They're sort of like not really truly Finder substitutes, I don't think, but they certainly augment the use of the Finder and how people use their computer. But I don't have any experience with that app, so I can't really tell you anything about it.
Okay, the Pathfinder is an alternative finder.
Okay, thank you for your question. Lynn, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, my first question was answered by you, Cheetah. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
The second part of it is my Finder window does not have at the bottom menu bar the path. If I have something selected, if I have a folder selected, it does not show the path.
Okay, so you can go to the View menu, and
View. Okay.
you'll see a choice down here called Show the Path Bar,
Oh, okay.
and you just turn that on.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, Donna Warnock, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, one of the items under the action column is clean up folder. What does it do when you click that?
Well, whoops, I just lost my screen there. Hold on a second. Let's suppose I wanted to view this window as icons. So they're nice and neat, right? They're in a nice little grid here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can even move these around in a saved search. So let me try a different choice here. I'm going to go back to, oops, not that. This right here. So I'm in icon view here, and I've got things kind of scattered around a little bit. If I go to the action menu and I pick clean up, it'll make those items kind of snap to an invisible grid.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do something like this, like if I got stuff overlapping and I want to clean it up,
Okay.
do something like that, just to
It
make
says
it.
clean up by too.
It says
you see
clean
that?
up by, yeah, you can clean up by, say, name.
Oh, that could be helpful. Okay.
Yes, it could.
Mhm.
So you can
Thank you.
do all kinds of things with that.
All right. Thank you, Donna, for that question. Fred Hawthorne, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
So I have an interesting situation. I like to set up my sidebar with the favorites to include desktop documents and downloads. Sometimes I find that my sidebar will forget these settings, and in particular, I'll click on desktop and it doesn't go anywhere. It just stays where it is. It will not show the desktop. Any idea what's going on there?
Nope. I'd say restart your Mac.
Mhm.
That's the fallback.
Yeah, you can also try relaunching the Finder. That might do it.
Mhm.
Tried that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your question. Stephen Ramirez, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, Cheetah, you had talked briefly about the filtering of files based on criteria. Does anybody know if that capability exists in iPad iOS?
I have not looked at
Okay,
that.
thank you.
I haven't tried it or looked at it. It could be
Neither
possible.
have I. Not in a
Yeah.
while. I thought I'd maybe see
Okay.
if anybody knew. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for your question. All right. Let's do one more. David Winograd, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, does the Spotlight or Finder search, I'm not sure which it's called, handle external drives as well as the internal drive?
I believe it does, as long as the drive is connected to your device. I think you can do that. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
All right. All right. Thank you. All yours, Mike.
Okay. Two last things about this. I want to just go back briefly to this smart folder thing. You can create a smart folder on the basis of creating a search. You can also create a new smart folder using the file menu anytime you like. And when you do, you can add criteria. So you can search your Mac or just the folder you're looking at. And to the right of the Save button, there's a plus sign. You can click this, And you can pick from a wide variety of characteristics and criteria to match. So if I hit this other button, everybody sit down for this, but you can go in here and find bits per sample for a song and create a smart folder for something like that. Conversation IDs assigned to messages, files created by certain apps, exposure mode. I mean, there's a whole bunch of metadata that's associated with a whole bunch of things on your Mac that you can use to create a smart folder. And you're not just limited to this small selection of like name or contents. You can pick all kinds of things from here. So if you want to create a smart folder on your own, just go up to the File menu and pick New Smart Folder and customize to your heart's content. The last piece I want to mention about the toolbar is that you can customize it. When you're looking at a Finder window, from the View menu, there's a Customize Toolbar command. And this is similar to customizing the toolbar in many apps on the Mac. There's kind of a default set down here at the bottom that you can simply drag up to the toolbar to replace whatever's there. Or if there's something that you use quite a bit, you can just drag an individual button into the toolbar. So for example, Quick Look is an example. You could just drag this Quick Look button up here, put it wherever you like. And then when you're done, you click Done. You can also choose to show icons only, text only, or icon and text underneath the buttons, your choice. So now that I've added this, I have the Quick Look button that I can use to quick look a document with a click, if I'd rather not use the keyboard or a menu command. Okay. The last piece in this toolbar area is the name of the folder you're looking at. You might notice that I have a little, what's called a proxy icon over here to the left of the file name. You might not be seeing this by default. I think there's a terminal command you can enter to show this proxy icon all the time in every window you open. It's a really handy feature. If you don't see a proxy icon next to the name of the folder, you can just point at the folder and the proxy icon will appear. This proxy icon, if you command click it, you'll see the path to this folder. So this is kind of a quick way to get to what the path bar would show you. And again, picking anything out of this menu, like if I go down here and pick the users folder, that's the folder I'm going to see. You can also use this proxy icon with other apps. For example, if I select this item, I'm sorry, I could use this proxy icon with other apps. So if I open up a mail message and I drag this proxy icon into the body of the mail message, it will copy everything into the mail message. I can also use this to drag this item around. If I wanted to put this simple folder on the desktop, I could drag this proxy icon out to the desktop and it would move the item there. So proxy icons are hidden by default in recent versions of macOS. But if you do a little internet search and find a terminal command that you can use to show it all the time, it's a really simple thing. You can just type in and have access to that proxy icon constantly. If I want to throw this folder away, I could drag the proxy icon to the trash. And that's the same as dragging the actual icon to the trash as well. Okay, next, the tab bar. Every Finder window can contain multiple tabs. If I'm looking at a Finder window and I want to show the tab bar, I can go to the View menu and pick Show the Tab Bar. So now in this window, I'm looking at one tab. If I want to add another tab, I can click the plus button to the right, and a new tab is created. By default, this is taking me to my home directory. You can change this to something else if you like, but I can rearrange these tabs by dragging them left or right. I can add another tab in here, rearrange them. I can look at this view of my home directory as icons. I could look at this view of my home directory as a list. I'm looking at the same thing, just two different ways. I can add another tab bar, maybe open up this folder here. So I've got one window, many tabs. And again, I can drag to rearrange them. I can take this tab that's in this window and just drag it out and make its own window. Or I can grab the tab from this window and just drag it right back in to kind of merge the windows together. If I want to close a tab, when I put the pointer on the particular tab, the close box or the close button will appear, this little X to the left of the name. I can just close a tab just like that. And I can actually drag an item from one tab to another to move it somewhere. So if I wanted to take this file that's in my downloads folder and move it to this folder called a simple folder, I can just drag it like this, and that'll move the item into that folder. Okay, so tabs are pretty cool. Sometimes when you're moving items from one window to another or one folder to another, you're going to want to have more than one Finder window open, but not always. And this is another way to kind of reduce window clutter, particularly on small screen devices like laptops. Next, the status bar. Again, go to the View menu and either show or hide the status bar. It'll appear down here at the bottom of the window. I've got 3 items in this folder. This is how much space I've got left on my internal storage. And when you're looking at a folder in icon view, you'll have this little slider to the right that allows you to make the icons within that window bigger. Okay. So I'm going to make these a little smaller, and we're going to work inside this simple folder for a bit. I want to run through some fairly common Finder tasks. Again, the Finder is kind of the way you deal with the file system primarily. You can organize your files and folders pretty much any way you like. If you want to create a new folder, you can just go to the File menu and pick New Folder. If you're used to keyboard equivalents, you can use the Shift Command N equivalent to also create a new folder. So when you create the folder, it shows up within the window you're looking at. The name is selected. It's ready for you to type a new name. So I could call this Colors. Press Return on the keyboard, and now I have a new folder that I can use. You can also create folders within folders. So if I open up the Colors folder by double-clicking it, I can create a new folder here called Green. And I create another new folder, Red. And another new folder, Blue, say. Okay. And using the path bar at the bottom of the screen, I can click any one of these items to go back to this particular point in the path. Okay. If I need to move things around to a new location on the hard disk or the storage mechanism that you're using, you just drag one item into another. So I could take this folder called Blue and put it inside the folder called Red. And when I open the Red folder, the Blue folder's inside. So if we go to column view, this will be a little more obvious, right? If I wanted to take this file called the rewiring guide, I can drag this right on top of this blue guy, and it will go inside. Okay. So when you drag something from one location to another on the same storage device, the hard disk, for example, inside your computer, it moves the item. If you drag something from, say, your internal storage device to an external storage device, it's going to copy it to that location. You'll see a little green plus button that will appear next to the item as you drag it that will indicate you're copying an item rather than moving it. That little green plus button means I'm making a copy. Okay, I just made a copy. If you want to copy an item to a new location on the same disk, you do what I just did. You hold down the Option key while you drag, and that makes a copy of the item in the new location you dragged to. You can also duplicate an item. You can select an item, You can find duplicate under the action menu, or you can find it under the file menu. Clicking this duplicate choice will duplicate the item in the same location as the original. I've got this PDF file, this Rewiring America Go Electric Digital Guide. If I want to see the contents of this folder or this file without actually opening it, I can use this feature called Quick Look. This opens up a preview of the document, and I can click through the thumbnails here to see if this is exactly the document that I want. And if it is, I can click the button at the corner that says Open with Preview. This works with just about any document on your Mac, whether it's a Pages file, a Word file, an Excel file. You can see a preview of the document using Quick Look. And if this is a document you want to open it, you just hit the Open with Preview button or Open with Word button, and the file will open in its native application. If you'd like to rename things, you can simply select the item and press the return key on the keyboard. That selects all of the text that's associated with the item. And now you can just type a new name. Again, anytime you have selected text on the Mac, whether it's in a word processing document or the name of a folder, you don't have to press the delete key and then start typing. You can just type and it will replace the text that's already selected. So I could pick vibrant colors. And when I'm done renaming the file, press return to accept the name of the file. And again, that column just automatically sorted alphabetically when the name of that file changed. You might notice that when you have an app on your device, there's kind of a default app that is used to open the document. For me, and maybe for most of you, PDF files typically open with the preview app that's built into your Mac. If you'd rather open it with a different app, if that's possible, you can select an item like this and go to the File menu and pick Open With. And any app that's on your computer that can open up this type of file will appear here in this list. So if on a one-time basis I wanted to open this rewiring guide using Adobe Acrobat Reader instead of Preview, I could do that. Or if I wanted to open it up in PDF Pen Pro because I wanted to do some editing of the PDF file, I could do that. So again, Open will just open the document with its default application. Open With gives you a choice of opening the app in a different app, if you'd like. And if you need to get information about an item, you can select the item in the Finder, and from the File menu, pick Get Info. This will open up a window that will give you lots of information about this particular item, like the tags associated with it, the type of document, the size, where it's located, what was used to create it. You can also rename the file from here if you like, change the default application, and also see a preview of the document. And again, this preview, if I put the pointer on top of the preview, I can click these little arrows here to get a view of the document without even having to open it. You can actually do the same thing over here in this preview column. I can just do this to see a preview of the document. If you have a video file or an audio file that you're looking at in the Finder, you'll see play buttons that will show up on this preview in the last column in case you want to just preview the file visually or audibly without having to open it.
Can I show you a tip that I've been waiting for Quick Look to do for a century?
Okay.
All right, open up a file with Quick Look. Just press the space bar.
Yep.
All right, you should be able to go to any page and copy some text.
Well, let's see. Okay.
You could not do that other than, I believe, the last two software updates. You would actually have to open the document to copy the text.
Is that right? Yeah, it
Yes.
looks like you do it now. There's also
Yes.
a button up here called Markup that allows you to mark up the document without having to actually open the document in a native app. I think that's a fairly recent.
Yes,
addition
yes,
as well.
that is too. Let me know when you're ready for questions.
Go.
Okay, Timothy Childers, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Timothy wants to know, is there a way to change the default find to name contains? Tim, are you still here? Tim, yes, Tim is still here.
Found it.
I think when
Okay, good.
I think when you go into the search field up here,
Yeah,
you're interested in
default
changing.
search always comes up with a particular not that search field, but when you hit Command F,
Yeah.
Command F, find
Where are you? Find. Here we go.
bottom. Bingo. The default is always kind any. If is there a way to make that default different? For my need, I always search by name contains. Name
Mm-hmm.
and then contains.
Right.
Always. And
I'm not aware of a way to change that.
oh, maybe if I click save, would that save it?
Well, this is going to save search with no criteria in it. So you could go back and I guess you could probably, let me just type something here. Empty search, right? When I click this, it's not going to find anything because nothing matches the criteria, right? You could, I guess, maybe go up here to the file menu. Let me try this way. If I right click on the smart folder, I can do show the search criteria. And you could type something here, I guess. So, you know, you might be able to, I was going to say maybe create like a stationary document that would just look like this. And you would just type in something whenever you want to search. You could do that. You could just leave this in the sidebar. And when you go into edit it, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I think maybe clicking the search button and typing what you want might be the best way to get where you want to go.
No. Doesn't work. I've tried for years.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right. This might be our last question. Len, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay. Since I got this particular computer, I've pretty much color-coded, tagged a lot of my documents. And my go-to color is red. I have some other colors, but it's not meaningful. You were suggesting that we could tag things and rename the colors as to what they are. Now, is there a way to group untag everything so I can start from scratch?
Wow. I think maybe what you might try is, like, I've got a bunch of stuff here in this red as well.
Uh-huh.
Try select them all.
Uh-huh.
Go to the action menu and uncheck these tags.
Oh, that's a good idea. Sure.
And that should remove the tags for anything that's selected.
Okay, I'm going to try that. Thank you.
Try that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Clarence Pitt, you have a question related to this. Can you unmute yourself quickly and ask that question? Clarence wants to know. Go ahead.
Yes, it's just I have a problem with the colors too. They've changed. I somehow probably changed them. Like the top buttons are red, yellow, and green. Mine are red, brown, and green. How do I change the brown back to yellow?
I think what you might have going on is something in system settings.
Yes.
Maybe under accessibility. For display, you might have fiddle with something having to do with the display contrast, or like if this increased contrast button is turned on, see how this is brown now?
That could be it.
Red, brown, green. So go into system preferences or system settings, look for the accessibility
Mhm.
display, and turn off the increased contrast.
Yeah, I found the increased contrast helped me to read the screen better, especially the menu bar.
Yep.
Okay, I'll try that.
Right.
Mhm.
All right. All right. Thank you for your question.
Mhm.
All right. I'm going to hand it over to Dan.
All right. Thank you, Mike, for everything. I hope everyone learned a lot. As you can see, the Finder really is a powerful tool to help you navigate, your Macs. So thank you, Mike. And if everyone could unmute themselves, and thanks.
Good job, Mike. I like
Thank
your
you so much.
Nice, Mike. Thank you. Thank you.
Boy, did I need this one.
Well done, Mike. Well done.
Good teacher.
Tired, Mike.
Very
Thanks,
much.
Mike.
Very nice.
Easy to
I like the
follow.
way you say no.
Okay. How
All
do
right.
we get in touch with you, Mike?
At the end of the handout you received, my contact info is there. You can find me there.
Great.
Oh, there's a handout.
Yeah, we'll put that into the chat. Could you put that in the chat again, Sheeta?
Thank
you,
Put that into the chat right now. Okay, I'm dropping it
right.
into the chat right now. Grab it before you leave. And be well.
Don't forget this Saturday, Sheeta is going to be talking. I should be playing a video there. Oh, wait, sorry. Next week, I'm getting ahead of myself. Next week, I'm going to be talking about Zoom tips. So join us next Wednesday for, just little tips on how to use Zoom. And this Saturday, we have Sheeta talking about the Apple Watch. You certainly don't want to miss that. And as always, thank you for your support. We'll see you. Hopefully, we'll see you on Saturday. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.
Be well.
I'll be there. Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
Good job.
Great. Thanks a lot, Mike.